Hello everybody in the Software Engineering CS 401 class. This is a video dedicated to going over assignment number 4. Assignment number 4 is due after the spring break. Right now we are still working on assignment number 3. If you remember, assignment number 3 had the software requirements specification along with the use case analysis and the class diagram and the sequence diagram. It was all about software engineering. And number 4 is the next assignment in a series. I posted some videos to help you with it, but I hadn't gone over the assignment yet, so I figured I'd create this video to go over the assignment. So assignment number 4 looks like this. Again, not due until after the spring break, and then you have another 7 days grace after that, so it's not due for a while. But I'd like to go over it just in case you're going to spend your spring break working on assignments, which I don't know, some of you might be doing, especially if you're doing that stay in place stuff, or shelter in place, which is pretty much stay in place or stay at home. There might not be very much for you to do, so I want to keep you busy. So assignment number 4. So in assignment number 4, you're going to create a Java program from the following UML class diagram. So you're going the exact opposite. So in assignment number 3, you created UML diagrams to represent a program that you're not writing. In assignment number 4, you're going to look at a UML diagram and then you're going to write the program. And so the program is described in these bullet points here. So each customer has a unique ID and is linked to exactly one account. And accounts, they own shopping carts and orders. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing. You can read it on your own. But these bullet point items are in the diagram, describing what's in the diagram. Now this diagram is sort of an entity relationship diagram slash class diagram. So there's no methods in here. You have to design those on your own. Instead, there are some data members. For example, if you look at web user up here in the left-hand corner, you see there's a login ID, which is a string called ID. There's a password, which is a string. And then there's a status, which is the user's state. Are they logged in or are they not logged in? And then we have a customer who's got an ID, an address, a phone, an email. We have an account, we have a shopping cart. So you pretty much are given this description of the program and you're given a diagram of the program, and all you're going to do is create the program. So in Java, you must do this in Java because we're looking at Java object-oriented programming in this course. Simply create this program. Now I will also give you the academic freedom to not have to actually follow this identically. So for example, if you don't think there should be a class for the line item or for the shopping cart or for the account, you can make some changes to this to change it around. This was somebody's design. Somebody said this is how we want the program designed. This is, it wasn't a programmer that put this together, it was somebody else. And your job is to take this and build the program. You don't have to build too much functionality in it. Don't go too far overboard with the shopping cart. You're not doing a user front end to it either. So you don't have to worry about the GUI. You don't have to worry about, have a simple command line interface. You don't have to worry about implementing like most of the functionality. Create the classes that you feel are appropriate and add the data members and any member functions in the classes that you feel are appropriate. And skip like the calculations for credit. You don't have to do any credit card processing. Skip the shopping cart calculations. You can, maybe had something added to the cart, remove it from the cart, but don't go too elaborate on it because you could spend a lot of time producing a lot of functionality that really is kind of going to go to waste because we're really not going to do anything with this after you create it. So the idea is to see if you can create a bunch of base classes and see if you can put the classes together in a hierarchy so one inherits from another, etc. and so forth. And you identify the correct classes. Not everything in the diagram will turn into a class object. You want to make sure that you get all of this function accounted for. And you can have it just simply print stuff to the screen. Like you do a system.out.println item added to the shopping cart. But you don't actually have to do anything with it. Or each order has a current order status. You could print out order status ready. So make your life easy. Just for the functionality, just print statements to the screen. Simple statements to the screen to indicate the status. Yes, this method worked. Yes, that method worked, etc. and so forth. So that's part one. You're going to take the diagram, you're going to, with that, and these descriptions go along with the diagram. Everything in the descriptions is actually in the diagrams. Convert it to a set of classes, add whatever functionality you wish to the classes. So that's part number one. Part number two, and just to end with this little paragraph here they left off of part number one, demonstrate the functionality using command line interfaces I mentioned before. That's the system.out. No GUI, no database connectivity. You don't have to, you can use any technique you want to store any temporary data that you want. You can be creative. You can add more features if you wish, but don't change the theme of the program. Leave the program theme around the same. Okay, part two. Part two, we're going to look at black box and white box testing. Now, I posted a video this week for today, Tuesday's lecture. And in that video, it shows you the differences between black and white box testing. So you're going to put comments in the source code to identify where the features are implemented. And note, you don't need to use a numbering system. But in your source code, and this is part two, we're going to do traceability and testing. Now for the traceability part, you want to put comments in the code to indicate where this stuff is located. You don't have to do one for every single bullet point. Just cover like maybe 80% of it, and you can put things together. But basically, it's not too many comments. You're going to put comments in the code. You don't have to have a numbering system, but if you wanted to do a numbering system, you could. So you can optionally provide Traceability Matrix or add a numbering system for the features in the comments. Well, Traceability Matrix would be a numbering system where it said, number one, each customer has a unique ID and is linked to exactly one account. You'd label this number one, and then you'd indicate where in the source code this was. That's the matrix. And then like number two, account owns a shopping cart and orders. You label this number two, and then in a graphic you can indicate, on line 20. So if you're going to indicate in the source code where these features are implemented, you would put like what line number you're on, or what module, or what class, or what package. You basically have to document where it is in the source code. So you have the feature here, and then you have the documentation to where it exists in the source code. That's called the traceability, by the way. That's traceability. Being able to trace the requirements, features to the actual source code implementation is what you're putting in there. So let's talk about black box and white box testing. You're going to provide a black box test case for all features of the implementation. You should have at least 20 test cases. Take a look at that testing lecture. It shows you how to write the black box test. It gives you the template for the black box test. You can use the template that's in that lecture. So it includes full coverage testing. That is, you want to test all the features. So you need to test all the features of the system at least one time. You can only have to have one test on each feature. You don't have to actually perform the black box testing because there's not going to be any. Unless you're going to, produce this software, you don't have to perform the tests. You're just basically creating the black box test cases, 20 of them. If you watch the testing lecture, you'll see the template. You can do it in a spreadsheet. You could do it in a Microsoft Word file using a table. You're going to label the tests. You're going to put in there, what the test is, what the expected output is, and you can have a column that you can leave blank for the result, or it could be a pass-fail column that you can just leave blank. You don't have to run the test. You don't have to perform them. Now, you're also going to provide a white box test for at least one of your class objects. I haven't really discussed white box testing yet. It's in the lecture as well. So when you look at that testing lecture, you'll see what it is. You're going to put together one white box test case for one of the class objects. So you're going to provide coverage for all the methods of the object. You should use a JUnit or another automated testing technique that you'd like. JUnit is actually part of the Eclipse browser. You don't have to use it. You may also provide a written test procedure or create source code test cases by hand. The white box testing should cover the functionality of at least one of the class objects in the system. Normally you would create one, you would create them all, but this is not required. You would create one for each one of the classes. Select one approach, manual or automatic, since both are not required. Okay, so for black box, because some of you may not have actually listened to the lecture yet, it's testing the outside functionality of the system. So did the feature work? Did the feature not work? White box is testing inside of the source code. It's actually testing the source code procedure. So take one of your class objects, just one of them, unless you want to do more, and describe how you would test the method to see if it worked. Provide it with some sample data. You can do it like in a flow chart. You can do it in a textual description, or you can actually write a test case for it in a like JUnit or one of the test languages out there. You're not required to learn how to do white box testing. You can simply describe how you would test it. For example, if it was a password object and the object was responsible for checking the validity of a password, the white box test might be user enters this password in. Then the system should come back and say, sorry, the password is invalid if it doesn't match, or password is valid if it does match. You can do one on, let's say, the password qualifications, like the password must be 7 digits in length, it must contain a character, must have a capital letter, must contain a special character, yada yada. So basically it's almost like describing, if I give you this input, this is the expected output I'm supposed to be seeing when this method runs. And if I give it the wrong parameter or the wrong input, this is the expected wrong indication that should come out of it. So go through the lecture on testing for black box and for white box and see if you can get a feel for how they differ. You're going to do one white box test for one of the class objects, just one of them, and you're going to do 20 black box test cases for the whole program. If you have any questions, let me know. I will have some, after the spring break, I will have some more lecture material for you, but I wanted to provide this information to, just in case you wanted to work on assignment number 4 during the spring break. Not to say that nobody has anything better to do during spring break, but maybe you don't actually with all of this current drama going on in the country. So when you're all done, you can zip it all up, or you can send me separate files. It doesn't really matter how you give it to me. You're submitting it to me the same way you submitted all of the other assignments for this course. So before you start on the testing part 2, you could probably do part 1 without any further explanation. Before you start part 2 on the testing, take a look at the testing video, and that should help you significantly. And then if you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Email is the best way of reaching me. Send me an email. We can arrange a Zoom or a Skype meeting, or I can probably just answer your questions by email. So I hope you're all being safe and staying and sheltered in place and abiding by all of the recent shelter-in-place requirements and rules. And be safe and work ahead if you want. This is assignment number 4. It is not due till after the spring break. And do try to enjoy your spring break. And I will talk to you again in another video. Talk to you later.